Okay. So one trade that's presented so far this morning is here on GBP CHF. I'm going to show you this idea. I'm going to break down this A1 entry, but the premise of why I want to show this clip is because here, this is an entry that could induce you into a trade. But if you have a system that you can work through, a checklist that you can work through before you take entry, you can actually avoid some of these potential losing trades, in my opinion. That's my experience so far. So if you're struggling to avoid these trades, if you keep taking good signals for your system, if you think that they're good entry signals, but they keep stopping you out, I always try to tell people that adding more rules to your system might help you avoid taking that trade entirely. And often we'll find that when we look at what traders struggle with, it isn't so much that they need to add wins to their P&L, it's that they just need to remove losers. You need to avoid some of these trades to cut out the losers, and that can dramatically increase your P&L without going and buying a new course and learning a new system and changing everything about your trading. If you can just cut out some of the losers, you're going to be a lot more successful and a lot more stress-free. So if we look, this is, like I said, an A1 setup on GBP CHF. Now, the first thing I always noticed this morning is this bullish divergence on the bottom. You can see from yesterday's RSI low to today's RSI low, the RSI is rising, shown here with this white line, but price action is falling. Now, when we're looking to take a trade and there's divergence present in our way, I'm going to put the replay mode on. You always want to measure risk reward to that divergence level. Now here, it's only 1.38 R. You can see right here with my little red cursor above my head, 1.38 R if it touches the divergence line. Now, could it fall through and go 3 R? Of course. Could it fall just a little bit short and only go 1 R? Absolutely. So unless we can get 2 R, because that's what we've back tested for the ASFX systems, specifically for this A1 entry, unless we can get 2 R to this divergence line, not really interested in the trade, even if it's a good entry. Now here, when this candle closed, it's tough to see in the replay, but when the candle closed, the RSI value was proper. The next bar being bullish pulled the RSI value back up against where we'd want it. So it could have induced you, and then it would look like it faked you out. But I think the tell, and again, this is just my experience. If you trade ASFX, this is a little nugget for you. I think the tell is the rising trend line here. You would never want to go short when this red trend line is rising. You either want it flat or falling. And I've really started to implement that one rule. Don't short into a rising red trend line, or don't go long into a falling trend line. I've probably used that in the last year or two, and it's made a big difference, like I said, in just cutting out bad trades. This is still a potentially good A1 entry. If you traded this 2 candle formation and there was good risk reward, I would say 7 out of 10 of them will be winners. But here, with that rising red trend line, this throws you into a different bucket of A1 trades, in my opinion, that instead of 7 out of 10 winners, you're maybe getting 3 or 4 out of 10 winners when you're trading against this trend line, when it's not in your favor. So even though the RSI value was good at the close, I didn't take the trade because of the less than 2R risk reward and because of the rising trend line, and it ended up being a good call. And the frustrating thing here for some new traders, and I'm sure you guys can probably relate to this, is if you take this trade and you lose, you end up seeing it fall lower here right to the divergence line, right here, after it stops you out. So then you're getting frustrated because you feel like you're missing the move as this thing starts to extend lower. So instead of just chasing yourself around all day, I would really recommend you implement more rules to avoid losing trades. And if you avoid the loss on the jump here, like I did, you don't feel any FOMO in this move. I have no interest in being in this trade right now because I know the risk reward to the divergence line sucked, and I know that the entry signal itself wasn't good. So even here, trying to short it now, I see resistance to the divergence line, which tells me that it was great to not take this short trade because it would have only fallen 1 point something R, 1.3, 1.4 R, which isn't that great. That's not what I'm looking for to stay in line with my edge. So that's why I didn't take the trade here this morning. And I hope that now, if you just contextualize this a little bit, you can see how important it is to just avoid bad trades, avoid these losses, even small losses. Paper cuts can kill you. They really can if you take enough of them. So instead of the idea of like, let me take every trade and see if I can just average out and have good risk management and crush the winners and, take the losses as they come and blah, 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 I would just say, how do you avoid the losses completely? How do you cut out losing trades from your system? I think that will make a big difference if you start to frame the mindset, frame the question to yourself that way. So here, I hope that this gives you some context. Like I said, I hope it helps you visualize what I'm talking about when I say, here's an entry signal, but here's something we don't want to be involved in because X, Y, and Z on the checklist don't fit, so we're turning away from it. And that saves me money today because I could have come back from Puerto Rico, taken this as my first trade, and would have been a loss to come back and start the week with for me. And that's not a great way to come into trading, to start your week or to end your week for me. It's all happening on the same day. So I was very cautious with this. It just wasn't a great setup. So I hope that that gives you guys some context, like I said.